We are live. We are back. We are talking racing. I know we got football going on right now. If you're like me, it's also hunting season. But tonight, it is all about racing. It is all about the Roval. It is all about turning left and right. It is all about chaotic endings. And who better to discuss chaos with than my co host, Aaron Simmons, Zachary Brandevold. Zach, back from a cruise. Glad to have you back with us. Glad you avoided hurricanes while you were out on the ocean. How are you this evening, Zach?
Doing really well. A much needed vacation, so I'm glad we did it. And first time out of the country, which was pretty cool. Got to see and do a lot of things that I don't normally wouldn't normally do. So very very excited, happy, relaxed, and a little bit disappointed having to go back to work. But we got to make money to pay for some of these excursions anyway. So we already booked our next cruise for next year. So pretty excited.
Cool, cool. All right. Aaron, proudly displaying the Tennessee Volunteers hat. How are you this evening?
Doing well, and if you notice by my name, you'll see it says Bama hater. Forever a Bama hater. Always will be. Always have.
Is it Bama
Uh,
week?
it is Bama week. We
Mm.
got
Third
game
weekend in October is
the third
always
weekend in
Bama
October
week.
because we
Always
got
Bama week, third weekend in October.
game day and SEC Nation coming to Knoxville, so the hype is real. I am excited. I am worried as all hell, but hey, I feel good going into this year. I feel like okay, if we keep it in like 30, we'll call it a moral victory. But no, we're expected to win, and I am happy about it. But anyway, doing
Well,
all right, doing well. Going through physical. I'm going through some physical therapy right now to take care of this thing and this thing, and it is not fun. It is absolutely not fun. So
okay. Are did you actually get an armband in Tennessee colors? Because that's what it looks like.
unfortunately, no. It's one of those off-brand copper tone things.
Oh, it
Looks like
looks like it matches your hat from what I'm seeing. And I was
we'll,
like, man, that is dedication.
we'll call it close enough. How about that?
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Let me make a disclaimer before we go any further. My internet is out, so I am doing this whole broadcast on the cell phone hotspot. So let's cross our fingers and hope that it holds out and I don't like lag, glitch, or whatever. So while we've still got good internet on my side, let's get this thing rolling. Let's talk about the Xfinity race review. And do you know how hard it is to go undefeated any way, any sport, any shape, any form of undefeated is extremely hard to do in any sport. It's even tougher to do at NASCAR or any kind of racing for that matter. But AJ Allmendinger, undefeated in the Xfinity Series at the Roval, 4 races at the Roval, 4 wins for AJ Allmendinger. Next year, they should just call it the Dinger Invitational. He finds a way to win every time. One of the interesting things was the final restart. If you watch that race, every restart leading up to that, and they'd had 2 or 3 of them, Ty Gibbs was able to gap him on the restart. And I don't know if Ty Gibbs fell into a pattern or AJ timed it right or AJ had figured out what he was doing on the restarts, but that final restart, he was side by side with him going into turn one, and that's ultimately what made a difference in the race. Is that great restart that Allmendinger had? We had big stories going on throughout the race. We had Daniel Hemrick wrecking to begin with and seemingly ruining his playoff chances, but then coming back and actually making a decent day out of it. We had Riley Herbst getting tore up all over the place. He left pieces of that 98 Monster Energy car, I think, in all 17 turns. You had James Davidson. I had no idea who this guy was. I had to look him up. Being the first non-playoff driver in stage one. I think he got points in stage two as well. and brought that thing home fourth. If you don't know who James Davison is, he is an Australian, I think GT driver. I'm not sure exactly what they run over there. I think they're maybe called Super GT cars. Anyway, he figured out how to wheel a big heavy NASCAR around that Roval and brought the thing home fourth place. So impressed with what he did. Ryan Sieg almost pulled off the Hail Mary to advance in the playoffs. He knew he was out. He knew he didn't have the car to make it. He pits, restarts 25th place, 16 points below the cut line, and I think he ended up missing the cut by 2 points. So, it didn't work out, but it probably was as close as he was going to get. So I got to give that team a lot of credit for saying, you know what, we're not just going to ride around here and accept whatever happens. We're going to try to create our own luck. And man, when he got those fresh tires, he drove the wheels off that thing. So, with all that being said, what do you guys have to add? What is the storylines that stood out to you guys? What do you want to talk about? Let's start with you, Aaron.
I was gonna say that, I was kind of watching or rewatching the race because on Saturday I was watching my Vols destroy LSU, but I was gonna say, like, as I was just rewatching that race, I could tell that Riley Herbst had a decent car. I mean, not a winning car by any means, but he had a car that could easily advance to the next round. But unfortunately, he got some damage from an incident that wasn't his fault. Got back into the pack and then got involved in 2 more incidents, which resulted in him just having a very bad race. And at one point, I thought he just flat out gave up because he just like, okay, you know what, I'm done. I'm done with this race. And so that got me thinking: is that man just cursed, or is he as bad as we thought we give him? But you know what? It's just a bad day overall for Riley Herbst. I felt bad for him. I truly did. No man deserves that.
Yeah. Now, somebody got into it with Sage Karam. Was that Riley Herbst or was that somebody else? Because I know somebody.
That was Sean Creed.
Sean Creed. I remember thinking Sage Karam is making a lot of enemies for somebody who doesn't run that many races, because he got into it with Noah Gragson back in Road America. But yeah, I could. So yeah, but Riley Herbst, going back to your point, tough day for him. Tough today. He left pieces of that 98 car, I think, in all 17 turns. Zach, what do you have to say about the Roval?
Congratulations to AJ Allmendinger. Absolute dominance, and I'm excited to see him and what he does in the Cup Series next season with the same amount of road courses, or more road courses, actually, I think. I would have loved to see a little bit more of Marco Andretti. It seemed like that news story kind of died down after qualifying, and him only qualifying 30th place. And obviously his day ended early with an accident, but I would have loved to see him and what he could have done with maybe a little bit more experience. I thought SRX would give him a little bit more experience of that stock car feel. And obviously that didn't really translate. So, but it's different running on a road course versus, quarter mile ovals. So, hopefully he comes back. I'd love to see what he can do. Ryan Sieg, I think honestly, he's that team, and just him himself has just been pretty impressive. I mean, I feel bad that they didn't get it done. I mean, they did have a couple chances to win a race, and they ultimately, I think there was at least 2 other races this season where he's in a position to win, got wrecked out. I think that team, showed a lot of promise this season, and I think they can hold their heads high, go for a win during the playoffs, and hopefully get a win during the playoffs and come back next year and I think compete a little bit better for that 39 team. So sucks for him, but I think that all eyes are on the Xfinity Series playoffs and how that unfolds. I think Noah Gragson is the obvious choice of championship pick, but I think it'll be interesting to see if anybody can topple him. AJ Allmendinger broke Noah Gregson's streak of like, what was it, 6 or 5 of the last 5 races? 4? Well, I know it was like 8 of the last 10. So yeah, pretty awesome statistic, but we'll see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to acknowledge Frankie Racing. I think you're a new viewer. Thank you for tuning in. Stick with us. We say that you will come away informed and entertained. So we will do our best to do both. And let's move on to talking about the Cup race, okay? And lots of storylines here, as there always is anytime you've got a playoff cutoff race. Couple things that stood out to me as you kind of watch the race develop. William Byron and Joey Logano started off up front. They were the fastest cars in practice, and they were the fastest cars in stage 1. But as you have in road racing, a lot of guys pit with 2 or 3 to go so they can get track position for the next stage. So it's almost like you pick your poison. If you stay out and win or earn points in stage 1, you're going to be at the back at stage 2. And I saw this and I said, wait a minute, these guys are fast. They'll get their stage points, as they did, 1 and 2. I said, they'll move up in stage 2. They'll be okay. They got back in traffic, restarted, I think, 18th and 20th, and really only got up to about 15th or 16th. And that was a theme of the day. You could not pass, whether it was the aero tight of the cars or whether so many cars just being so equal. But track position was king. This reminded me of some of these races like we have at Texas where clean air rules. And I never thought I would see a place where the cars were so aero sensitive that you would have this condition on a road course. But that seemed to be what they were experiencing. It was extremely difficult to move up once you got in the back of the pack. Ross Chastain grabs the win in stage 2. Again, track position being king. Stage 3, we're seeing the cream rise to the top. You saw Chase Elliott and you saw Mr. Allmendinger running his partial Cup schedule up there. And it seemed like Chase was a little bit better. Maybe AJ was pretty close. And then we have the infamous debris caution at the end that sets up all the chaos. Now, I would love to go back, and I have not watched this on the DVR to watch it. I've heard that debris was sitting there for several laps before they called the caution. I would love to go back and go through that DVR recording I've got with a fine-tooth comb to see if I can spot that debris and how long it was actually there. And even if it was just there, very controversial caution because it was clearly out of the racing groove. Now, the announcers were saying, well, if they go too wide, yeah, it could come into play. But very, very controversial caution, in my opinion. But it set up the drama that we know NASCAR craves and that we know that drives TV ratings. This was not a great race, okay? It was a pretty boring race, but people are going to remember the last 5 laps, and they're going to call it a great race because it was a chaotic 5-lap finish. It wasn't a great race. In this, you had all kinds of things happen. You had Christopher Bell pit from 7th place to take fresh tires. That was his Hail Mary. He had to win. That was his only chance of advancing. He pulls it off. He drives through that field like a knife through hot butter with the fresh tires. That's the only time you could really see anybody drive through the field. Chase Elliott gets spun around. AJ Allmendinger gets knocked around. You have your guys that were really fast, like William Byron, Joey Logano, finishing 18th and 20th or 16th and 20th, finishing way back because they could never make their way through. You have collateral damage like Michael McDowell, who ran top 10 all day, getting knocked around and finishing 27th. It was just an absolute chaos. And all you were doing is you were either knocking somebody out of the way, getting knocked out of the way, or trying to avoid the chaos around you. If you like that, that's great. You love the race. I like to see more pure racing. I hated to see the caution. I hated to see the guys that had great cars get tore up. But it is what it is. This is one of the rare times where you see somebody, they have to win to advance, and they are able to pull it off. And Christopher Bell did it. He was the first car with fresh tires. He drove through the field. He got the win, congratulations to him. And something that I think is a twist of fate or a little bit of irony, Hendrick Motorsports worked so hard to keep William Byron alive in the playoffs by getting his point penalty reduced. In a strange twist of fate, by getting him up there, that ironically, indirectly led to Kyle Larson being eliminated. So I guess if you're Hendrick, you pick your poison. But that was the Cup race. I'm sure there are storylines that I missed. Zach, let's start with you. What do you have to add to this? What storylines jumped out to you?
Yeah, I share the same sentiment that you do of that this was a pretty boring race. There was not a lot of passing. Restarts were pretty much the name of the game as far as passing goes. And so it was kind of frustrating as a fan. And so that caution, I think, kind of saved the day for in terms of NASCAR, and making it a more interesting finish. And that was somewhat unfortunate because I like you, I'm not the type of person that really wants to see cautions for no reason, and I didn't really see a reason to throw it at there. So unfortunately, it happened, and then we got a bunch of chaos afterwards, and it ruined a bunch of days for some of the playoff drivers and some of the guys competing for wins. So that to me was super unfortunate that happened, and all in the sake of just trying to get better TV ratings, it seems like. But NASCAR has made those kind of calls all season, so at least they're being consistent. As far as notable storylines, I mean, I think it's kind of big that Chase Elliott does not get a road course win this season, despite being the championship favorite, I would say. He doesn't get a road course win, and they all go to different drivers. Pretty interesting. I would like to see what we all picked. I think like a couple weeks back, we picked whether or not he would actually win at a road course. I forget what I picked, but it'd be interesting to see who won that little side bet. But overall, Christopher Bell, I just thought it was an amazing call by the crew chief getting new tires. A lot of people don't think that tires would be that important. Track position was the name of the game all day. But with the multiple different cautions that we had there late, I think it really played into Christopher Bell's hands. And of course, 40 lap tires will eventually make a difference, especially on restarts. And that's why he ended up getting by Harvick. But I thought this was just, the type of win that we would see out of a championship caliber driver, and back against the wall, kind of like what we saw Harvick earlier in the season, back against the wall and needs a win to get in, and he does it. So I think there's a lot of drivers that we're still waiting to see that out of. Guys like Ryan Blaney, we're still waiting to see whether or not they can win when their back is against the wall and they need it the most. And I think partially that goes on the strategy call, but just by the driving that Christopher Bell did. He just went for it and was very aggressive there late when he needed to be, but not overly aggressive where he was wrecking people out. So kudos to him, kudos to the team, and I think it just solidifies that he should be considered a championship contender.
Yeah, he had a great first round of the playoffs. He was the most consistent Toyota and probably had the best performance of the Toyotas in the first round of the playoffs. But the second round, you're right, his back was against the wall. Aaron, what do you think? Give us your take on this race and the big storylines.
I mean, I'll agree with what Zach said. I mean, very little in passing. Bell turns out to gives his first road course win this season. Turns out it was the last road course race of the season. I really think that this win kind of solidifies Bell as a championship favorite. I wouldn't say the favorite, because Chase Elliott's still in there. He's damn good everywhere we go. But Bell, he's looking savvy right now. I think he seems to be the best guy in the guess that will not named Hamlin. So all I gotta say about that. Sucks for Suarez. I really thought he would do a lot better at the Roval, but power steering and mechanical issues came back to light again this week with tire issues, toe link issues, power steering issues. All that just came right back after a week of silence from the mechanical NASCAR gods. They came back, and it's just unfortunate for both Larson and Suarez. So that just sucks.
Yeah, we didn't even touch on Daniel Suarez. He definitely gets the tough guy award for trying to wheel that thing around there with no power steering for what it seemed like a big chunk of the afternoon. So he definitely gets the tough guy award. So
Absolutely.
He really does.
And I think he was, he was running up in the top 5 for, it seemed like, the first part of this race. And I think he probably would have advanced had he not had those issues. But it's unfortunate. I don't know if we're not talking about the William Byron penalty later. So if you don't mind, I want to say something on that. NASCAR has been super inconsistent with these appeals. It seems like every team is getting off on a technicality and getting a slap on the wrist. I think this was a slam dunk penalty, in my opinion. But they got off on a technicality on NASCAR's part. And I think this just opens the door for, I mean, I guess it allows NASCAR to change the rule book so this doesn't happen again. But now, they're essentially $100,000 is a slap on the wrist. And, that's basically a car for Rick Hendrick. He'll probably pay it, end up paying it. And there wasn't really a penalty for William Byron's incident. And, we're lucky that I guess Hamlin didn't get too bent out of shape points wise after the incident, but it still cost him a chance at a win, and not having that nervousness. Am I going to make it coming into the last race of the round? So, I just so frustrating. It seems like you got teams getting 100 point penalties throughout the season for modifying some body parts. And you got a guy blatantly wrecking somebody out under caution, which is not only a safety hazard, but you don't catch it during the race. One, when you have cameras in every single car, which, at the very least, you could put Hamlin back to his original position. And then after the fact, you allow loopholes to where they can get out of the points penalty. I just think it's ridiculous. And he would not have made it into the next round had that happened. I know NASCAR doesn't handle the appeal system. That's different. That's separate. That's a separate committee that handles it. But honestly, just awful in my opinion. And hopefully that gets buttoned down for at least the rest of this season and next season.
Right, and we will be going over more of that later on in the podcast.
Yep. All right, that gets us into the news story. So, Zach, take it away. That is your segment.
Sure. All right. So, first thing is NASCAR meets with teams to discuss distribution of finances. So, essentially, the teams have kind of broken their silence on the broken economic system that NASCAR is in. Has a couple of the team owners are kind of speaking out a little bit. This is the Race Team Alliance that was formed in 2014. So that's part teams and drivers that are a part of that are kind of speaking out against it and saying that, hey, NASCAR is kind of gatekeeping a bunch of these finances. So what are you guys' thoughts on this, Tom?
Okay, here's the deal. Here's how this game is played. There are 52 cards in the deck, and NASCAR holds them all. Okay, these guys went to NASCAR in June with their concerns about the revenue model, and you don't get an answer even from NASCAR until October. And then you get the answer, and the answer is no. That is because NASCAR holds all the cards, okay? And that's the way the game is played. And, you know, I'm sorry, it's going to be tough when you're running a business and you have 300 or 400 employees and you're trying to put 4 cars on a racetrack. That's a recipe where you're going to need a lot of money to do something like that. And the emphasis is on winning in NASCAR. No matter how much money you make available to the teams, they are going to spend it all to make the cars go faster. If you gave each team an extra $10 million, they're not going to put that $10 million in the bank. They're going to take that $10 million and spend it to try to make faster cars. So to some degree, you've got this thing of no matter how much money they have, they're going to spend it all. They're never going to sit here and say, yeah, we're going to put this $10 million in the bank and save it for a rainy day. That's not how racing works or has ever worked. There's no doubt the finances are different than they used to be, but I am not at all surprised that NASCAR basically brushed them off. They made them wait from June until October to get an answer, and then when they did give them an answer, the answer is no. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just saying I would expect nothing different from NASCAR.
What about you, Aaron?
I kind of agree. I mean, while it is true that that the cost of everything has gone up. I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. I mean, milk used to be a lot cheaper than it was, back then than it is now. Same with gas, same with electricity, the same with car parts, the same with name it. Name one thing, the cost has gone up, and it will just keep going up and up and up and up and up until Apocalypse Day. That's what's going to happen. And so I get where the teams are coming from, saying that parts are getting more and more expensive to come by. But I also get NASCAR's spot of saying, look, most of your finances are your guys' problem. I mean, you guys go out and get sponsorships. You guys that go out, building your race teams. And if it gets too costly, then, well, you got to make some cutbacks. So I get where both sides are coming from. I think both sides are acting kind of like children, saying like, okay, as a quote from, Curtis Polk, quote, we've gotten to the point where teams realize the sustainability of the sport is not very long-term. End quote. And then also, quote again, this is not a fair system, end quote. So explain how we've gotten several new teams in the past 3 years, and also explain how, or explain why they would jump into NASCAR if it did not suit them long-term. To me, if it won't suit me long-term, I dump that much money and time and capital into something that won't sustain me for long-term, why would I go there? So, to me, that doesn't make much sense. But at the same time, I see where teams are coming from and saying that things are getting more expensive. So, I see both sides, but I really think drivers are kind of just crying a lot more than what they probably should.
Yeah. The whole point of the new car was to lower the cost of ownership. Manufacturer parts. Same parts for every single car essentially. I think in a way that has worked, and I think that's kind of helped. We've seen these new teams jump in, especially with this new car, and I think that's kind of helped in that aspect and made it more competitive, right? But still, this quote kind of rings true. They're looking for, because sponsorship is so vital, teams are desperate for financial relief elsewhere. And because, they said, quote unquote, we become full-time fundraisers. Instead of working on our business, we're raising money just to exist. One of the main quotes. And I'm not behind the scenes, so I can't say for sure, but I would see where that exists, because when you look at it, 93, according to this article, 93% of the TV money goes to NASCAR, and teams just receive 70%. Meanwhile, other series like Formula One is 50-50 split. So to me, I think it does need to change. Either you have the drivers and the teams. The teams would not exist without, or the series would not exist without the teams. And if you don't pay the teams well enough to keep them there, and they're having to fight for sponsorship, and we've seen it this year. Mars is leaving. That's part of the reason why Kyle Busch is leaving. There's a bunch of guys signing for lower contract amounts. Because there's not enough money to go around. I mean, this isn't the NASCAR that we had in like 2004, where drivers getting paid obscene amounts to drive because they had full season sponsorship deals with one company and a bunch of associate sponsors on plastered on the side of their car. It's different now because NASCAR went through a decline, and we're trying to build that back up. So I do think that there should be more of a revenue split. 7% seems kind of really low. Like I said, I'm not behind the scenes, so I don't know 100%, but just from those percentages, I'm going off of what this article says, it is low. But moving right along, NASCAR meets with teams to discuss safety concerns with the next gen car. The sports executives and safety engineers on Saturday morning, to kind of give them a detailed report from a recent crash test. They've been working really hard, apparently trying to get stuff solved for the next season. So nothing is really imminent for this season as far as fixing the issues with especially the rear of the car. But they did get a lot of information from the drivers, and NASCAR divulged a lot of information to the drivers about it. What are you guys' thoughts? Aaron, let's start with you.
Normally NASCAR, if anything drivers have suggested over the years, is that, okay, well, thanks for commenting, and then just brush them aside. This time NASCAR doesn't have a choice. They have to listen to the drivers and make changes to this car, because it could potentially kill somebody. Even though the wreck may not look bad, we've already seen it with Kurt Busch, we've already seen it with Cody Ware, we've already seen it with Alex Bowman. This car is not safe. And it's been proven multiple times already this season that this car is not safe. It needs changes badly. And so NASCAR, hopefully for next season, will actually listen to drivers for once and make changes to this car. I thought I heard somewhere that they've already decided to make a change to, I guess, a bracket in the back half of the car. I will have to do some more research on that to make sure that's actually confirmed or not. But that's what I've heard. The NASCAR is reportedly already making changes to the car for next season. But yeah, NASCAR cannot ignore this one. They have to go with the drivers for this one, finally.
What about you, Tom?
I think this is interesting because if you go back to, I think the show that we did before the season started, we talked about in our preseason show the concerns that the drivers had over the safety of the cars. Okay, so this is not something that has popped up just since Kurt Busch got a concussion and Alex Bowman got a concussion, and you got two playoff drivers. There were concerns over the safety of the car back before we even hit the track at Daytona. And I remember there was some concern about crash test data and them saying that that they wouldn't actually release the numbers of what the G forces were on some of these hits, and that led to speculation that they could have been fatal hits based on the crash data analysis. So this is not something that is new. I am not going to applaud NASCAR for jumping on this after 32 races, because this is not something that was new. And I remember when we had that show, I said NASCAR will take care of it. If there's anything that they jump on and take care of, it's safety. And I am eating those words right now because we've had this for 32 races, and now they're deciding to talk about it. So I am not impressed with NASCAR's actions. And I think that there is a trade-off here that they have swung the pendulum too far, because you can have a very stiff, rigid car that allows for some contact and some beating and banging, and the cars are still drivable. The flip side of that is that more rigid car now is more dangerous because it doesn't crush and it doesn't absorb the energy of crashes the way some of the other cars did. So you can kind of have it one way or the other, but I think they have swung the pendulum too far. You can either have a car that crumples with any little contact, or you can have a car that is rigid, but you can't have one that does both and is safe. And I think that's the dilemma NASCAR's in right now. But I'm not applauding them for jumping on this, because this has been an issue since preseason.
Yeah, completely agree with you on that. I forgot we've been dealing with this since the preseason. And we didn't even wait. We waited until after Kurt Busch, after Alex Bowman had his incident, and as well as Cody Ware. I mean, when it starts knocking out drivers, you look at Kurt Busch. After that incident happened, there's something 100% should have happened, and it was all talk. And then obviously Alex Bowman is the second driver to be knocked out. And that's when NASCAR, I think, got a little bit worried of optics, and okay, so maybe we should actually start talking about the drivers and getting their feedback. And who knows, this might just be placating their feelings, saying, okay, what, okay, we'll do this, we'll do that, So we don't know, because NASCAR has been saying that they've been on this case since the preseason, getting this fixed, and nothing has happened. So I know major stuff really can't get figured out this season as far as like fundamentals of the car, and I think that's what is the underlying issue. So hopefully they get some fixes for next season. Until then, I just hope they're working on maybe some short-term fixes as much as possible, as much as you can, in order to fix it. But it's dangerous. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But
if anything happens.
Yeah, if anything. All right. So next big news story that actually just kind of dropped. The reports are saying that Tyler Reddick may have been bought out by his contract from RCR by 2311. What are you guys' thoughts on this? Tom, let's start with you.
Oh man, we could spend a whole show talking about this. The dominoes that fall here, is this the end for Kurt Busch? Because if Reddick is bought out and can go over to 23XI next year, then they don't have room for Kurt Busch. So they've either got to come up with a third team and a third charter, or Kurt Busch retires, or Kurt Busch is looking for a job. But that's just one domino to fall. The other thing is, I really think that this is an extremely shrewd move by Richard Childress. The rumor I'm hearing is that it was a $5 million contract buyout, that he was probably banking on that when he signed Kyle Busch. Because you'll notice they really haven't done a lot with announcing sponsors. I think he was counting on getting a big check from 23XI that was going to allow him to fill some of that sponsorship gap with Kyle Busch, because he signed him, but they really haven't gone into a lot of great detail about the sponsors. So I think this was part of Richard Childress's plan. I think he was banking on that big check to be able to help field a car for Kyle Busch, and I think it's worked out exactly the way he planned. So shrewd move by Richard Childress for sure.
What about you, Aaron?
And kind of going off that $5 million thing, I heard it was $10 million was a buyout for Tyler Reddick, but they couldn't get 10. They settled for 5, and so that's all I've heard for right now. I mean, I mean, we'll know later on this weekend is when the quote unquote official release is going to be made public. But I mean, if I'm Tyler Reddick, I'm kind of happy that to be bought out by 23XI early, because that means that's a year of your career that's not going to be wasted because you're a third team that's just going to be there for a year until you finally go over to that ride that you're supposed to go in. And so if I'm Tyler Reddick, I'm a little happy. Know that, okay, you know what? I'm finally going to be going away from Richard Childress. I'm going away from that organization that apparently didn't really want me and wanted Austin Dillon. But I'm finally going to 223XI where I can finally, hone my skills in a year early and just race from there, and life is good. But still,
Yeah, I think this was bound to happen. It was going to happen one way or the other. It's a matter of whether or not you want to be racing with Tyler Reddick or against him essentially a year early. And, RCR was asking 10 million. And it looks like, from what I've heard, 5 is the number. We won't know until and if any details are going to be released on it, which they don't really normally release numbers. So we'll see if that gets released. But it's not surprising, in my opinion. 23XI has kind of the money to kind of bankroll this with Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin. So, you want to not have them racing in a at a separate team. You want them with your team as quickly as possible. So I think it was a matter of time. And when you look at it, RCR was going to have to buy another charter or lease another charter, which was going to take away any money that they would have would have given to Kyle Busch for potential sponsors. So we don't know what kind of those sponsors look like. And from what I know, Kyle Busch is not bringing many sponsors with him, if at all. And so I think most of them are going to be team sponsors from RCR. And I think this is a good move all around. RCR saves money. 23XI gets their guy a year early, and hopefully, either with a third car, which Denny Hamlin has said that he is, he'll make 3 cars work if he needs to, or with 2 cars and somebody retiring, that being Kurt Busch, they'll make it work. So honestly, I think this is better for everyone involved. RCR gets money. 23XI gets their guy. So anyway, Dodge is talking about rejoining NASCAR, but their talks have stalled yet again. They were reportedly talking with RFK Racing in order to partner with them. Kind of makes sense with Brad Keselowski being a part owner. What are you guys' thoughts on this? Aaron, let's start with you.
First, I want to say Landon Castle resigning in the Xfinity Series. I'm looking at it right now.
Resigning, not resigning.
Resigning.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. I misread that. I'm kind of dumb. But yeah, Adam, I'm looking at it. Great for Landon Castle. Good for him. Hopefully he will have a better season than what he has this year for college racing in the Xfinity Series. But going back to Dodge and NASCAR talks, that sucks. That hurts. I really would have thought. I kind of thought Penske would have been a better fit for him because Penske has that history with Dodge, and of course Dodge, giving Penske their first NASCAR championship, and wasn't forever. And so I kind of thought they would have ggone to Penske, but RK was kind of an odd choice for me for Dodge. because at least from what I understand about Jack Roush, he is a Ford loyalist. I mean, even when Ford was down on engine power, down on everything, Jack would not stray away from Ford. And so I don't know why Dodge would go to Jack Roush. I kind of thought they went to Penske or maybe Storehouse Racing to see if they can get in, but I don't know. But just for the nostalgia factor of Dodge coming out to NASCAR, that sucks. I really wish they would come back, but if it's not beneficial for them, then I understand. But yeah, come on, man, stop teasing us like that. Just stop it.
What about you, Tom?
Yeah, I agree with Aaron. I thought Stewart Haas or Penske would have been a better fit for Dodge than RFK. But welcome to the schizophrenic world of NASCAR, okay? Why would Dodge want to come back? All the major teams just said that the sport isn't sustainable. They just said that we're not getting enough money. There's not enough revenue to go around. We can't find sponsorships. That the long-term sustainability of the sport is in jeopardy. So why would we want to come in if we were Dodge? Ignore that $5 million that 23XI just wrote a check for. Ignore that. Pay no attention to that. The sport's not sustainable. We don't have any money. Yeah. Welcome to the schizophrenic world of NASCAR. If I'm Dodge, I'm not sure whether to jump in with both feet or run away screaming. But it is sad another manufacturer would have been fun. So I agree with all of Aaron's points, but I also think we're just looking at a schizophrenic sport right now, with everybody saying the different directions we're going. We don't have a lot of stability or unity.
Dodge talking about rejoining NASCAR. Seems like it's been like an off and on thing for the past 10 years, 20 years really. Well, no, ever since they left, so 10 years. But it kind of surprised me that they were courting Roush Fenway Keselowski. In a way, it makes sense because you have that Brad Keselowski connection, but Roush is Roush Yates, so it's a little bit surprising. However, I think this would have been good, and hopefully they reconsider. I would love to see that happen. But the whole point of NASCAR, going with a lower downforce or lower horsepower package was to attract a new manufacturer, and that has yet to happen. Since they have changed this model, we've gotten a lot of talks from different teams, but nothing has ever come up with it from it. So it's highly disappointing, and I don't know if we'll see one in the short-term future. But like I said, I hope Dodge does consider and actually does do it, but just because I love Dodge and the nostalgia that brings. But we'll see what happens. But anyway, Cole Custer and SHR will be receiving penalties for their actions to help Briscoe get into the next round of the NASCAR playoffs. It is said that the crew chief, Mike Shiplett, will be indefinitely suspended and fined $100,000. Custer will be docked 50 points and also fined $100,000 as well. So probably one of the largest penalties that we have seen in a very long time from anyone. I'd be curious to listen to the radio and see actually what happened. But what are your guys' thoughts? Aaron, let's start with you.
Well, damn. Custer docked 50 points. How will he be able to compete for the championship now? I mean, wow, 50 points. Wow, that damn. There goes the championship hopes. I mean, what's Cole Custer had to have to lose anyway besides $100,000? Nothing. I mean, we all know why Custer did it was to help Briscoe into the championship. He did his job. Well done. Way to go. $100,000. Okay. apparently teams just have all sorts of money now. So what's the point of finding him $100,000? So cool, whatever. It doesn't change anything. Briscoe's still in. There will be no 2013 situation in which a driver, is suddenly placed into the round of 9 now. There's nothing with that. All they did was just penalize Cole Custer for something and just call it a day and move on. That's literally all they did.
What about you, Tom?
Yeah, somewhere Ty Norris is smiling. He caught so much heat from the actions he did. I think it was the first year of the playoffs or the second year where they were trying to manipulate the results. So somewhere right now, Ty Norris is smiling, saying, yeah, see, NASCAR, it isn't just me. 10 years later, it's still going on. As long as there are teams and teammates, people will be trying to help each other to get people in. The interesting thing is, as I understand,
we may have just lost Tom.
Do you want to go ahead?
Decision, which doesn't always happen. So, but yeah, not the last time we're going to see something like this happen. And I don't know how NASCAR is ever going to police it, but as long as you got teams and teammates, you're going to have stuff like this happen.
All right, Aaron, what about you?
You've heard my opinion. Congratulations, way to go! You punched a guy in the head.
Oh, that's right. Anyway,
so congratulations, you just got $100,000. What do you go?
Yeah. So this isn't. I don't know. It's a little bit surprising. I mean, it did seem like Custer did hold up drivers. A lot of people online are pointing to the Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick incident at Bristol last year. I'd love to see how different that is from what we saw at the Roval this past weekend. I'm pretty sure it's going to probably be appealed.
Also, if I can just point out one more thing here. Remember, was it 2015 at Talladega, I think it was a cutoff race that year. I believe Kevin Harvick was down a cylinder in his engine, and the only way that he could advance is if the entire field wrecked and he just coasted across the start-finish line, and that'll be in the race. Well, he did, and correct me if I'm wrong, which I probably am, but I don't remember there being a penalty for Kevin Harvick that day, even though everybody knew, what he was doing to intentionally cause a wreck to get him into the win. That's fine. But if a teammate that has absolutely nothing to lose helps another teammate get into the next round, all of a sudden that's a penalty.
That's interesting. I do remember that race. I do think that the penalty is better when you look at what happened in previous instances of this trying to happen. We did see a penalty this time that we'll have the right to appeal. I do think it'll probably be reduced or just based off of what's happened this year. Every time the team appeals, they win. So I don't know. I think it's more consistent. We don't have drivers being added to the playoffs or taken away after the fact. They let it settle out on track and just find the living crap out of them and dock them points. You do have to remember that 50 points is a lot. It's not the 100 points that people have been docked before this during the season for modifying body parts. So it's interesting to see what they kind of value more there. But the payout system, is still tied to points finish. So SHR and Cole Custer, they won't get paid out as much. 50 points less of an opportunity to move up in the standings. So that will hurt them in terms of the bottom line just a little bit. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of what comes of it, if they'll appeal and what actually happened. I would love for that to get released. But that is the news for this week.
Okay, all right. That brings us up to the who's hot, who's not segment. So, Aaron, let's jump in with you. Who have you got for who's hot and who's not?
All right, so for my who's hot this week, I got to go with the man who had just won at the Short Roval 4 times in a row. AJ Allmendinger just completely owns that track. Like you said, Tom, it is going to be renamed the Allmendinger Invitational next year for good reason. Just, yeah. How can you not go with AJ Allmendinger this week? Dude is just a beast at the Charlotte Roval. Good luck chasing him down unless you're Ty Gibbs. For my who's hot, who's not this week, I got to go with Corey LaJoy. I mean, dude, you knew that Suarez had steering problems, but yet you decided to get up right next to him at the last chicane, and it looked like you didn't even. It looked like Corey didn't even turn. He just like smacked right on into him to try to get a little more room going to the corner and spun him out. Corey took that personally and just spun Suarez out. Why? Because Suarez wasn't having a worse day enough. So, LaJoy, I love you, man, but come on, dude. Come on, man. As if we want to have a worse day already and you decide to spin him out. Come on, man.
Well, look at it this way. If you're ever going to get into a fight with a dude, that was the right day to get into a fight with Daniel Suarez. He probably couldn't even lift his arms up after driving with no power steering. So,
I mean, honestly, I'm surprised he actually got out of the car. To be honest with you,
yeah,
it's like, yeah, I'll just drink here. I'll just sleep here, guys. Y'all go home without me.
All right, Zach, who you got for who's hot and who's not?
As far as my who's hot, I'm going to go with Christopher Bell. Like I said earlier, winning his way into the championship or the round of 8, excuse me. Awesome move. He was on fire the first round. He obviously had issues with the second round, but he got to win when he needed it. So good on him. And I think he has jumped himself into a championship caliber driver with that drive, in my opinion. As far as my who's not, Kyle Larson, defending series champion, gets knocked out in the round of 12. Not a good look. Argument's sake could be that it should be Byron instead of Kyle. And, it's not a good look for Kyle Larson. Not a good round for Kyle Larson. And I think we expected him to be in the Final Four at the beginning of the season, at the start of the playoffs. And he was in a somewhat comfortable position heading into this race. And I say somewhat because, obviously he's not in it anymore. He got out by, I think it was like 2 points, but, not where that team should be. So that's my who's hot and who's not for this week.
Okay. Yeah, this was kind of the story of Kyle Larson's season. Mechanical failures, wrecks, mistakes, just not a good season. That's kind of what we saw from him in the playoffs was what we saw from him all year, and it ended with him being eliminated. But let me move on to who I've got for who's hot and who's not. For who's hot, I'm going to say streaks in the Xfinity Series, okay? Let's look at the streaks that we've had. We had Noah Gragson winning 4 in a row, okay? 4 races in a row in Xfinity Series. Extremely hard to do. I don't know if it's ever been done. As soon as that streak is broken, what happens? It gets broke by AJ Allmendinger, who is now on a 2-race winning streak. So we replaced one winning streak with another, and AJ Allmendinger's second consecutive win was his 4th in a row at the Roval, so he's got a 4-race winning streak at the Roval. So I am saying streaks are what is hot in the Xfinity Series because we've had a bunch of them. Now, for who's not, okay, anyone publicly criticizing NASCAR. Case in point, Kevin Harvick, remember his comment about crappy parts for a crappy car? Remember the T-shirt I think he was selling on his website, Happy's Crappy Parts? Remember all the comments he's made about NASCAR and this car and being so outspoken? Guess what? After Texas, NASCAR randomly picks 2 cars to go to the R&D center for additional testing. Guess who gets picked? Mr. Happy Kevin Harvick's car. What a surprise. Who would have saw that coming?
Yeah,
And
random pick, by the way.
random pick. Who saw that coming? Oh my gosh, what are the odds? And the result is they find unapproved modifications to a manufacturer supplied part, or however they phrase it, and he's without his crew chief, and they have lost a bunch of money and a bunch of points. Gosh, who would have thought that? Next we have the teams that have decided they want more revenue from NASCAR, and they asked for it in June, and then they start complaining about it, and the answer happens to be no. So, yeah, go make your boss look bad in front of the media and see how much of a raise he wants to give you. You guys all try that as employees. Let me know how it works for you. So, my who's not is anyone criticizing NASCAR. Thought it was very interesting, especially the Kevin Harvick scenario. Wow. Just sorry about your luck, Kevin. Just bad luck that you got randomly picked there. So with that, let's go to the green flag, red flag segment, and that is Aaron's.
All right, gentlemen. So Judge Aaron's back in town. I have my imaginary gavel right here, ready to hear you guys' cases for these statements, as well as the, I guess the jury would be the chat. That's correct. Jury, you guys. You can either vote to agree with these statements or disagree with these statements by commenting green flag or red flag down below. We'll get to the first one right now. As Zach has alluded to earlier this stream, the appeal system for NASCAR is broken and needs to be fixed. Green flag or red flag? Zach, we'll start with you first.
Yes. There's been a lot of penalties this season, and this past, at least the one for William Byron, is a glaring example as to why this is broken. Getting out of the out of the penalty there, pretty obscene. It is broken, and it does need to be fixed, as well as the NASCAR rule book. So, yeah, it does. Green flag.
All right, Tom, what say you?
Okay, so let me say a couple things. I'm going to say green flag, but first, let's acknowledge that a 25-point penalty to a driver in the playoffs, when you're basically going with 3 race seasons, is more significant than a 100-point penalty when you are regular season. Okay, let's acknowledge that NASCAR does have some basis for handing out a differing penalty as far as points go when you're dealing with regular season or non-playoff driver versus playoff driver. Because in the playoffs, you've got three race seasons leading to the championship. So that 25 points is at least as significant, probably, in my opinion, way more so than 100-point in a regular season. But, okay, here's how I will tell you that this whole thing is broken. Let's look at the William Byron appeal. We determined after appeal that the penalty and the infraction, or I should say the infraction, was so severe.
So severe needs a dramatic pause as Tom lags out. But anyway, I guess while Tom tries to escape the void, I'll go ahead and make my ruling. And I will have to say green flag. This system is freaking broken. I think it has been for a while. The fact that you can basically go to the media afterwards and admit and tell the media straight up, yeah, I kind of did it on purpose, and not get a points penalty for it, only fine $100,000. All you're doing is telling them it's legal. It's legal for a price. If you're willing to pay $100,000, then okay, that's fine. You can go wreck anybody you want to intentionally, and that'll be the end of it. So if I'm Denny Hamlin, I am rolling into the next round. I'm already mad at Chastain. I'm mad at Byron now. Those are two guys that I want to see mad and sad at the end of this round. Those two I'm going for, and I've already got a check for $200,000 right there, plop it on their desk, saying, "There we go, that's it."
That's the standard set now.
That is basically what they've told the drivers. It is legal for a price.
Yeah, my connection I think went bad there, but the point I was trying to make when it went bad is, in what world do you decide the infraction is so bad that we need to quadruple the fine for dollars, but the infraction is so light that we need to eliminate the penalty in terms of points? What are we trying to do here? So anyway, keep going with the green flag, red flag. But I lost internet right when we hit that section.
Yeah, but yeah, basically NASCAR is setting a double standard. That's all they're trying to do. All right, so let's see. Actually, yeah, screw it, do it anyway. All right, case number 2 of the night. Actually, I believe we've got Adam Lauer saying red flag, I like Byron, so screw it. Also, points on his never matter in the regular season, points in the regular season anymore.
This is true. With all the different winners, they really didn't matter.
It really doesn't matter. I mean, points don't matter unless you're already have a win or already locked into the next round of the playoffs. So points just don't matter anymore. Also comment for you, Tom, down there by Austin Dan. If you want to go ahead and read that.
I have no faith in motorsport games being able to do anything without screwing it up, okay? So let me say that. Right now, Heat 5 is the best playable game that we've got. I'm not taking a chance of getting it screwed up to the point that I can't play it. So I'm going to wait and let everybody else go buy this DLC that comes out in 10 days. If they say it doesn't screw up the entire game, then I will get it. And if the next gen cars do handle differently, and I really don't think they're going to be any different other than aesthetically looking different, I will start making setups. But I really think it's just going to be paint schemes and maybe the shape of the car. But the only way that you make them handle different is you come out with a different physics model, and they're not doing that. So I think it will be the exact same handling characteristics, just in a car with that's wearing a different paint scheme and maybe a different look to the body. But if it is different, I will certainly make setups for sure.
All right.
Get us back into the green flag, red flag.
Back on track here. Cole Custer blocked drivers on track for his teammates to allow him to get into the next round of the playoffs. Green flag or red flag? Tom, we'll start with you first.
Green flag. Yes, he did. In other shocking news, the sun is expected to rise tomorrow. Water is wet, and polar bears have white fur. So there, you're up to date on all the shocking news.
Wow, just getting to all the news today. Awesome. Zach, what say you?
Did you know that polar bears also have black skin? Interesting fact.
I thought I heard that from somewhere, yeah.
Anywho, yes, this did happen. Did it happen as egregiously as it looked on TV? I don't believe so. They took the SMT data from Chase's car. He broke 1 second later, or braked 1 second later into the corner than he had all race long, and carried more speed through the corner than he had all race long. So either he was driving the corner extremely conservatively all race, or he actually did try and shoot the gap as much as possible. So I think it was a little bit of both ultimately in the end. But yes, I think Custer did try and help his teammate, but not as egregiously as everyone's saying.
Yeah. All right. So in other news, grass is also green. which is ironically the color of the flag that I'm going to be choosing, green flag. It was blatantly obvious that Cole Custer blocked. I mean, he braked stupid early. And conveniently, it was right at the point where Austin Dillon was at the highest speed possible before braking, going into the bus stop, and he could not get out of the way. But also very conveniently, Briscoe got out of the way of that. It's almost like he knew that something was going to go on. But hey, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying it's very, very coincidental. That's all I'm saying. All right, so moving on to number 3 of the night. NASCAR should eliminate the Charlotte Roval from the schedule, take it out back on the woodshed, and just go and end the race right then and there. Green flag or red flag? Zach, we'll start with you first.
I'm going to say red flag. I do not think that they should eliminate it. It's a different type of track. It's not a traditional road course. I think passing will get better as we understand the new car. And I think that was the main concern with this race from people. And the surface is relatively new. We're still waiting for that surface to kind of come into its own. So I will say red flag for those reasons.
Okay. Tom, what say you?
This is a tough one to answer, okay? I'm going to say red flag, don't eliminate it, because there's an old saying, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, okay? If we're eliminating the Roval and we're replacing it with Road America, go for it. I'm all for it. If we're eliminating the Roval and giving Texas another date or Pocono a date, or we're going to do something like the Chicago road course or street course, then absolutely not. Keep the Roval in place. But similar to my comments about motorsports games, I have no faith in NASCAR to eliminate the Roval and provide us with something that is a better race and more of what the fans want. I have no faith in NASCAR to do that, so I'm going to say red flag, keep the Roval. Now, are there better options out there? I think there are, Road America, but I'm not sure NASCAR is making a real habit of listening to their fans and their fan base right now.
Dadgummit, Tom, you stole what I was gonna do. I was gonna do the Road America thing. Dadgummit, you stole it.
Sorry.
Oh. You know what, Tom? Hey, that's why we're friends. You and I think just alike.
Hey, great minds. We think alike.
Great minds think alike. I will. You know what, Tom? I love your argument. Zach, you also make a great argument. I'm gonna go red flag. Do not get rid of it. Even though when it first got on the schedule, I was like, tear this place down. It is awful. Please don't do this. I've gotten used to it. I've gotten to where I actually kind of like the rule being on there. It's different. It is different than just being a traditional road course. From with this, you do have the turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, the high banked turns playing a factor in this, and that honestly is kind of cool. So I will admit the Charlotte Roval has gotten into my heart a little bit. Even though when I first ran on Heat 5, I wanted to burn it down because it sucks. I've gotten used to it. So I'm going to go red flag, even though it does have passing problems. It is a little bit narrow, especially for these wider cars to make clean, efficient passes. But, yeah, no, I won't say get rid of it just yet. All right, so the last green flag, red flag, and it's going to end on, I think, a very depressing note. Kurt Busch retires this year and brings an end to his driving career. Green flag or red flag? Tom, what do you think?
I hate to say it, but here's how I think this plays out. I think it is green flag. I think Kurt Busch is going to announce his retirement and say he's transitioning into a different role, whether he goes into the broadcast booth or he takes some role like maybe Jeff Gordon took at Hendrick Motorsports. But I do think he is going to announce it. I don't know that they're going to be able to get another charter or another competitive ride for him. So I think he's going to announce it. But I also think he hasn't driven his last race. He's going to retire and then he's going to come back and do some one-off races where somebody puts him in a car for a specific race where they can find a sponsorship. It may or may not be with 23XI, but I think this is going to be kind of like the deal. Like, I think in 1993, I bought tickets to go see Kiss on their farewell tour. Okay. 20 years later, Kiss is still playing concerts. Okay. I think it's going to be kind of that deal that we're going to see Kurt Busch doing one-off rides for 4 or 5 years, even though he has officially retired from full-time racing at the end of this year. So I'm going green flag.
Okay. Zach, what do you think?
I think it go either way. And I would say it's very likely that he retires, but just because I want to be a little bit different, I'm going to say he doesn't. I think next year is going to be his final year, and he gets that swan song year, and retires on a high note.
All right. Well, as much as I would personally like to agree with you, Zach, about Kurt Busch and not going to retire at the end of this year, I'm seeing writing on the wall. With 23XI, even though they're as so financially strapped as all the teams are saying they are, they paid a handsome sum of $5 million to buy Reddick out of his contract early. I think that was the final writing on the wall. I got to go green flag. I think his time's up. I mean, we've seen drivers with broken wrists. We saw them with cracked. Just go watch Davey Allison and see how much pain a man can take and still drive a race car. I mean, he had about every single injury under the sun and still raced. So, I mean, if Kurt Busch is if that hit was as bad as I think it was, and Kurt Busch truly is not there yet to race, I sure don't think he'll come back, which sucks. And I don't want to say it, but I think his time is done. I mean, unless 23XI finds a charter somewhere, I truly think he's done. And I hate to make that ruling, but I'm going to say it. He's done. I mean, he's a Daytona 500 champion. He's a NASCAR champion. He has nothing left to prove. So
I hate to see him go, but I think that's where we're at right now. But
yeah.
All right, let's pick up the pace here. Let's go to the Las Vegas picks and who we've got to win. So Zach, let's go with you and your pick first. I will say you got into the agenda first, so you stole my pick. That's who I was going to go with. But tell us what you got there, Zach.
Yeah, so Denny Hamlin, he was in contention early on in the Las Vegas race earlier this year. He was doing really well until an accident. So he got knocked out. I think he'll get it done. I think he'll get it done at this time because it's a favorable track for Toyotas. Las Vegas is, and they seem to do well in the 1.5 miles. And yeah, as far as my dark horse though, I'm gonna go with another Toyota. Martin Truex Jr. Hasn't won yet this season. Toyotas have been very fast this year at 1.5 miles. Truex was hunting down Kyle Busch in the closing laps earlier this year when a caution came out and other drivers only took 2 tires. The 3 Hendrick drivers of Bowman, Larson, and William Byron took 2 tires, and so he ended up starting 6th. He ended up falling back and finishing in the latter part of the top 10. I think he breaks the winless streak and wins at one of his career best tracks with an 11th place finish in his career. So, yeah, those are my picks.
Okay, all right. By the way, Denny Hamlin, last 4 races at Las Vegas. See if I can get this here. Last 4 races at Las Vegas: 4th, 1st, 32nd because of, I don't know, it's crash mechanical problems, and 3rd. So the 3 drivers with the highest average finish at Las Vegas over the last 4 races are all Joe Gibbs Toyotas: Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex. So you've got some statistics very heavily on your side with those picks, Zach. So Aaron, who have you got?
Well, now that you say that, I'm going to go into the opposite direction and say Joey Logano to win, because he has been pretty good at Las Vegas. Of the last, I think, 6 races there, he's had 2 wins, 4 top 10s, average finish of 8.4. So he's been very good at Las Vegas. And so, and plus, I think it's just his time to pull a win out of a slump, like he usually does. But from our dark horses, see there, I'm going with Brad K yet again. Also, statistically, just a little bit better than Joey Logano in terms of average finish, of an 8.3 average finish. But no wins, got 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s. Usually fairly good at Las Vegas and the quote-unquote cookie cutter tracks. And Brad K and honestly RFK Racing has been showing a lot of speed recently. They must have finally found something in this car legally to give them speed. So I got to go with Brad K as dark horse, Joey Logano as my winner. And so I'm feeling it, and honestly they'll probably record lap 1 because that's how I roll.
All right. I'm going to tell you, I don't like the Joey Logano pick, okay? Joey Logano, and I just think Team Penske is fading at the end of the year, but Joey Logano's 17th or worst in 4 of his last 5 races. So I just feel like everybody else with this new car has caught up and maybe passed Team Penske a little bit. But let me give you my picks here for Las Vegas. I'm going with Chase Elliott. I would have picked Denny Hamlin, but somebody beat me to it. But Chase Elliott getting hot at the right time, won at Talladega, led most of the race at the Roval, finished in the top 8 in his last 4 races at Las Vegas. So I'm going with Chase Elliott. My dark horse is Justin Haley. The Kaulig cars are becoming more competitive at the Cup level. They are just quietly figuring this out, quietly starting to run more consistent and better. Haley finished 5th at the Roval and 3rd at Texas, and almost won a stage at Talladega. So they have just very quietly figured this thing out and started moving their way up in the field. And I am saying Justin Haley is going to be my dark horse for Las Vegas this weekend.
Also want to point out where I picked a Ford to win and a Ford dark horse. Zach picked a Toyota to win and a Toyota dark horse. You picked a Chevy winner and a Chevy dark horse.
Well,
I just noticed
we all got our stuff going. So, okay. All right, let's cover who we have got going out here in the round of 8, and then I think that will be our last segment for the show. Aaron, who have you got going out in the round of 8?
All right, final elimination for this week. I kind of remember my last round a little bit. Half. Well, Bowman was pretty much a guarantee after his injury, unfortunately. Blaney survived, and Briscoe somehow survived. Well, Blaney not survived, but Briscoe somehow survived. So I'm going with Briscoe is finally gone. His Cinderella story comes to an end of this round. I got Chastain not surviving. I've got Hamlin, and I've got Byron being eliminated. Hamlin I don't know why, but I just have a gut feeling about Hamlin. I don't think he'll survive. Byron hasn't really been showing much all year, just kind of coasting. Chastain, he'll probably get wrecked by Hamlin or somebody else in the field that hates him. And then Briscoe, just because, like Byron, he hasn't really shown much since Phoenix. So I don't know. I've got this word going out. I'm probably wrong with Hamlin, is who I'm not confident with, but I just don't see anybody else in the round of 8 that I would definitively say, yeah, he's not going out.
Okay. All right. Let me dispute one with you. Okay.
Okay.
William Byron is going to the championship 4. Okay. His big issue has been getting through this round. Okay. These next 3 tracks are right up his alley. He won at Martinsville earlier in the year. He was 5th at Las Vegas earlier in the year, and he won last year at Homestead. Okay. So he has got 3 tracks coming up that are probably 3 of his best tracks. So I'm saying William Byron's, he was vulnerable in the round of 12, but I think round of 8 is tailor made for him with the tracks we've got. But so I disagree with you on that one. But Zach, what do you got?
Yeah, I was gonna agree with you on that aspect of. I think it's pretty well made for him. However, I'm still going to say that he gets out. Very likely that an incident could potentially take him out. Or wait, no, hold on. No, I don't have him out. I was looking at my last week's picks. Anyway, Briscoe, Bowman, Suarez, and Byron were my last week's picks. I got Bowman and Suarez. Briscoe made it in, obviously, and Byron. I picked him first time too, I think. No, I didn't. But I really thought that this round was going to be an issue for him, and he ended up scraping by. So good on him. As far as who I think is going to be out for the round of 8, definitely Briscoe. I think Bell, Logano, and Chastain. Particularly Bell, although he's quick. It doesn't seem to have the consistency, I think, in order to make it, which I think is what he needs, being below the cut line, if I remember correctly. Logano hasn't really done well, and I don't really think these tracks necessarily suit him very well. Same with Briscoe. And then Chastain, I think Hamlin gets his revenge. Either that or, we have seen mechanical failures on Trackhouse cars pretty regularly now. So hopefully they can get that buttoned up. But I still think that he will be out. So as far as my championship 4, I'm going Byron, Chase Elliott, Hamlin, and who's the last one that I'm forgetting? Blaney, excuse me.
Okay, all right. For the round of 12, I got 3 out of the 4 eliminations right. Bowman, Suarez, and Cindric. I missed Chase Briscoe, which oddly enough, we all had him going out in the round of 12. So none of us had much faith in the second Chase in this scenario. But in the round of 8, I am saying both the Penske drivers are out. I think that Blaney is out and Logano. I think they are both fading. I think Penske is just not hot right now, or at least not consistent. Blaney is outside the top 10 in 6 of his last 9 races. Logano is 17th or worse in 4 of the last 5. They are picking a terrible time of year to be on a cold streak. So those 2 are out. Briscoe, I really don't think he has shown much speed really all season. And as Aaron said, I think his Cinderella story comes to an end this year. And then the last one I struggled with, but I finally came up with Bell. He was 10th at Las Vegas last year, or early in the year, 20th at Martinsville earlier this year, and 20th at Homestead. So not great tracks for him, but he is the one that I struggled with because I really felt like if any of the Toyotas were going to make it, it was going to be him. But that's what I got is Bell being my 4th guy out. So that is what we got for this week. What do you guys have as closing comments? I think we have covered everything, haven't we? What do you guys got as your white flag comments?
I guess my white flag comment is that I will probably not be watching the race Saturday because I got more important things to watch. But yeah, I mean, we're getting down to the final wire, man, and it's only going to get more chaotic. It's only going to get more head scratching. It's only going to get more intense. So these next 4 weeks are going to be absolutely insane. I'm glad I'm here for it.
Cool. Zach, what do you got?
Yeah, definitely interesting how this is all going to play out. I think these next 4 races are going to be interesting for all of us, and I think we'll see some surprises.
All I got to say as a parting comment is thank goodness for NASCAR, because in the world of football, I root for the WVU Mountaineers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So thank goodness for NASCAR, because I got not much to fear about or root for right now. So, yeah, my 2 football teams are stinking up the field. So glad I got NASCAR to watch on the weekends.
I do.
Amen
for you as well.
So, amen for that. Right. Let's start, Tom. Go ahead.
I was going to say, with that, I think we are done for this week. So everybody enjoy the race from Sin City, and we will catch you all next Tuesday.
See you guys.
See you guys.